This is to Jai Gurudev. So topic today is Rahu. Right? Rahu. Success and ambition. So when I say Rahu, what image pops up in your mind?
Shadow.
Snake, shadow. What else?
Torso.
Torso. Okay, what else?
Desires.
Desires. Very nice. What else? Darkness. Samudra Manthan. Okay, talk all about that. So firstly, how did Rahu and Ketu, what are Rahu and Ketu? So you can see Mars, you can see Venus, you can see Jupiter. Can you see Rahu and Ketu in the sky? They are mathematical points. So what are the mathematical points about? So there is a plane in which the moon moves around the earth. So let's say moon moving around the earth in this plane, and earth is moving around the sun. Okay, so there are two distinct planes, right? So if you take a piece of paper, or let's say draw a circle, one is a long circle, doesn't matter, the other is a different kind of circle, but there are two distinct planes. Now these planes are slightly inclined at each other, to each other. Okay? If they were all at the same time, you would have eclipses every time there is a new moon or a full moon. Now these planes are inclined at a certain angle, and there's an intersection of two planes. So take one plane like this, take another plane like this. So they will intersect on the top, they will intersect on the bottom. So on the on the top where they intersect, what's called the north node, that is Rahu. In the south node, that is at the bottom where they intersect, that's called Ketu. So they are mathematical points so these bodies don't exist, they just exist in imagination. Make sense? Now, what a lot of time Western astrologers will say, hey, they don't exist, you don't take Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, which is taken in Western astrology. But Eastern astrologers say that the energies of Uranus, Pluto, Neptune, the outer planets, can be captured with Rahu and Ketu, and you can get equally good interpretation with Rahu and Ketu. Okay? That's the astrology portion of it. But now let's understand what do they represent in our life. So some person here, I think Abhishek, you talked about Samudra Manthan, right? So everybody knows that story? Okay, so let's talk about the story and figure out what it is. Okay, Rachna is saying no. So you had this, at one time, the Devas were losing in battle, okay? They oftentimes lose in battle, you know. They say the good guys, they lose. So we have labeled the Devas as the good guys and Asuras as the bad guys. So they were losing in battle, and the Asuras had this, so there, who's the guru of Asuras? Shukracharya, right? He had this ability, if somebody dies, he can make that person come alive. So if you have that kind of ability in the opposite camp, now, and you don't have that ability, you are at a disadvantage. Don't you agree? So they went to Lord Vishnu. He says, you know, if you do this whole churning of the ocean, there will emerge something that will make you immortal. Okay? But he says you can't do it alone. You need a lot more power, so you have to forge an alliance with these Asuras. So even though you don't like them, you have to forge an alliance. So they negotiated, they sold marketing strategy. Hey, you will also get it. Why don't we form an alliance? Sometimes you see political alliances come together of two different parties. Yes or no? Yes. Yeah? All the time you'll see. So they formed an alliance and they started doing this. So they took the mountain. There's a beautiful symbolism, spiritual symbolism, but we'll talk about that at a later time. Okay? So they had a snake, Vasuki, okay, and a mountain, and the mountain was sinking. So there was a Kurma avatar that took place. So you have a turtle on top of a mountain and snake, which is being used as a rope to move the mountain and to churn the ocean. Okay? Now in that so the Devas, Indra, who was the king of the Devas, he knew. So he plotted. He said, you know what, we will do it, but I want to be the head of the snake. I want to hold the head of the snake. So the Asura said, you know, why would we hold the feet? Feet is bad, so I want to hold the head. Huh? And that was the plan. Okay. So Asura, Deva said, okay, you hold the head, you'll hold the tail. No one, let's hold the alliance, you know. And when you do the head of the snake, and when the snake gets agitated a little bit, because, so guess what will happen? Poison will come out, right? And the poison was they said, made the Asuras really weak and clouded their ability. You are with me so far? Okay. And what Vishnu told the Devas, that don't worry, if a lot of things will emerge, okay? You just keep giving to the Asuras. You just put your eye on the nectar, okay? Because in negotiation, you have to give something and take something. Yes or no? We all know, okay? So this was said, just keep your eye on the nectar, I will give you an indication. So all this is going on, and then finally the nectar emerges, okay? Now, Asuras like, yes, this is the time, right? So then they started fighting, Asuras, Devas, and then Vishnu took the roop of Mohini, enchanting. They said, no one you can see more enchanting as Mohini. You are with me so far? And what she told the Asuras, let's form two separate lines, you know, forget about the Devas. Now you close your eyes, and whoever opens the eye last, I'm going to marry you. Okay, now there is incentive to keep your eyes closed. With me? So now, by that time, she was distributing nectar. Now there was this one gentleman here called Swarbhanu. Okay, he said, there is dal mein kuch kala hai. There is something fishy going on here. Okay, let me just go to the other camp. Okay, forget about Mohini, forget about everyone. Let me go to the other camp and see what's happening. So he switched sides. He disguised himself as a Deva, even was able to fool Lord Vishnu or Mohini. Okay, he drank the nectar. He was standing on the one side was sun, on one side was moon, and once they distributing and in a row, and he goes past, and they say, sun says, he's not one of us. I've never seen him. Moon says, he's not one of us. As soon as Lord Vishnu realizes this, he changes his shape to Lord Vishnu, takes the Sudarshan Chakra, throws the chakra at him. The body is made into two halves, the top and the bottom. Okay? But at that time, he has already consumed the nectar, so he becomes immortal. That's the story. Okay? And do you know how garlic came about? They say when the blood of Rahu or Swarbhanu hit the ground, from that came garlic. So that they say has the medicinal properties of the Amrit and incites passion because he was a Asura. So just as a side note, okay? This is the diversion. So now there's a beautiful story if you want to understand the characteristic of Rahu. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, what are the characteristics? Do you think he was a seeker? Was Rahu a seeker? Wasn't he seeking something?
Yes.
He was seeking something, so he was not, his mind was on something else. Don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think he was an out-of-box thinker?
Yes.
Do you think he was smart?
Yes.
Do you think he was deceitful?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think he crashed a party?
Yes.
Right? Do you think he was an illusionist?
Yes.
Those are exactly the traits of Rahu. Okay? Out-of-box thinker, proxying as somebody else, taking on an appearance of somebody else, that's Rahu. Now all of us that look around in the room, we are all immigrants. Okay? Was he obsessive about getting something?
Yes.
It takes a lot of courage to leave your native clan, caste, clique, and move to a totally different place. Was he a risk taker?
Absolutely.
right? Now look at us. Do you think we are risk takers? We left our home country and came here?
Yes.
Yes? It requires certain amount of obsession, right? To leave your home place where you know people, where it is safe to come to a foreign country where you don't know anything. Do you think we proxy as other people? Do you think we change our name?
Yeah.
Vikas became Vic, Harish becomes Harry, Girish becomes Gary? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do we change our accents?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes or no? Do we change the way we dress?
Yes.
Do we change our food habits?
Yes.
Are we acting as Rahu?
Yes.
Yes! Yes or no?
Yes.
That's a Rahuvian trait. It is. We are proxying as somebody else. When you break from your clique, whatever that is, you go away from your level of comfort. You go to a different place. You want to be like them. It could be moving to a different strata of society. You start dressing differently, right? You drive a different car, you live in a different house. You are proxying as somebody that you are not born like. That's a Rahuvian trait. In this country, we are all, so we are exhibiting that trait. That makes sense? So people say Rahu is good or bad. Forget about it. Just look at it that way. Now, one characteristic that is associated with Rahu is obsession. Okay? You have to have that obsession to achieve, to be able to leave that. Now, what is interesting is, you see he has got only the top, right? No body. Okay? Now, let's see if you really like a food. Okay? What is your favorite? Gayatri, what's your favorite dessert?
Gulab jamun.
Gulab jamun. Okay? You eat 1, 2, 3, or you like something. After a while, bhar gaya, I can't eat anymore. Right? What is causing you not to eat anymore?
Capacity.
Your stomach. Your stomach is full. But guess what? If you don't have a stomach, what happens? Insatiable appetite. He doesn't have a stomach. Right? Cut. So, insatiable appetite. So, wherever you have an insatiable appetite, wherever, that's Rahu. That makes sense?
Yes.
Now, these planets are archetypes. You see this energy in many different places. Now you have to see where that energy is playing. And we'll analyze on our day-to-day experience. So what's the color of Rahu? Smoke. But there's a color.
Gray.
Blue. Okay? Now, which is the most popular color on the internet?
Blue.
Facebook, blue. Excellent point. Let's talk Facebook. The example Abhita brought. Facebook. Color is blue. Do you think people are acting as they are, or they're pretending to be something else? Yes or no? You want to project yourself as being happy. I'm going on vacation. Yes or no?
Yes.
You are proxying. Are people obsessed about Facebook?
Yes.
Rahuvian traits.
You're saying because the Facebook color is blue, people are acting.
I am not saying. I'm saying that trait, not because of the color. That energy, Rahu energy flows through it and brings all the traits. Let's take Netflix. The logo is red.
Yeah.
Binge watching. Do you think it's obsession?
Yes.
Even though the color is red, but it brings out what is binge watching? You're obsessed about it. Breaking Bad, oh my God, I watched so many seasons, I need to watch, I can't just stop Breaking Bad in the middle. Yes or no?
Yes.
Obsession is that trait of Rahu. Unsatiable appetite. Represents the senses. The senses cannot be satisfied. Are you with me so far? Now, somebody said, smoky in nature. But before we go into smoky in nature, there is another story. Would you like to hear? Are you bored or you want me to start?
Love stories.
Okay, love stories. Okay. So do you know the avatars? So how many avatars are there? So far, how many? Nine. And how many grahas are there? Nine. So do you know there is a corresponding, every avatar has a corresponding graha associated. Did you know that? No. Maybe you should talk about that one time. Okay?
Next time.
Yeah, maybe one time we'll talk about, for the Jyotish lovers, he's the second chapter of Brihaspati Hora BPHS, talks about this. It's a lot of time people ignore it, but it's a part of the Jyotish Vidya. So the avatar associated with Rahu is Varaha. You know Varaha avatar? Boar. Okay. So that story is, there was a monster called Hiranyayaksha. Okay. He captured earth into the bottom of the ocean. He took the earth to the bottom of the ocean. Okay. And then Lord Vishnu took then the divine, the Devtas went and said, we have to have creation come here. It's a very important energy channel. We need creation to happen on this Mother Earth. So Lord Vishnu went as a boar. With his tusks, he lifted the earth and brought it to the surface and above the water. And that's how the creation started. Did you know the story?
Yeah.
So, symbol, yeah, Vara brings. So now if you look at it, Rahu represents our innermost desires. Rahu represents the reason why, the single most set of desires that we are born to fulfill in this birth. So think about Earth. So deepest desires are down. Rahu will make sure that desires come up. And you have to deal with it. You cannot suppress it. You have to transmute. You have to go through the desire to get away from it. Do you see what I'm saying? There is a saying in Hindi, bhog karke hi yog kar sakte hain. You have to go through, satisfy, transmute the desires, then only you go past it. So if you look at the process of reincarnation, when we die, our memory of people that we know, everything goes away. But the desires, the craving and aversion are there in the subconscious. They go from one life to other. Rahu and Ketu both represents the deepest unconscious desires that we are even not aware of. But they are there, but they represent the reason, especially Rahu, we are there for this birth. We cannot ignore or suppress. So let's say if you are obsessed with sex and you're like, I'm going to negate it, even if you go to the top of the Himalayas, you're just thinking about sex. It's not going to make it any better. Does it make sense?
So the influence of Rahu is to surface the desire.
You have to deal with it. So Rahu is about subconscious, that sometimes the voice in your head, that's Rahu. He represents the desires, and he gives you the obsession and the drive, ambition to do it, but you can't negate it. You have to just say, okay, I can't just negate it and run towards spirituality. I have to handle it, take it head on, and that desire, depending on where Rahu sits in your chart, could be about relationship, it could be about sex, it could be about money, it could be about homes, it could be about whatever. But you have to deal with it in this lifetime.
So so when you talk about the avatar,
Yeah.
how does that relate? So it's something that the avatar represents something divine, right?
Yes, exactly. So think about it. So in my mind, and again, this is my interpretation, let's say if the deepest desires are hidden, so the ocean can represent the mind, like many layers of consciousness. The desire is somewhere deep hidden. Now, you have to bring that desire up to the surface level, deal with it, and once you deal with it, then it just goes away, bringing you closer to divinity. That makes sense? Just my interpretation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yes. So we have to go through Rahu to bring out.
Rahu is just representing the senses, the desires, the material plane, okay, that we have to handle. But it is a shadow planet, so is Ketu, but Ketu has entirely diametrically opposite characteristics. We won't talk about it today. But Rahu is not a material planet. You cannot see him. It's a mathematical point. So anything that you cannot see is in the realm of Rahu. Okay? You know exactly where the president lives. Right? White House? Do you know where the drug dealer lives? Do you know where the thief lives? No, they are there. Even though you know where the web is, okay, World Wide Web, there's a dark web. You don't know where it exists. An average person doesn't know so many things. Web itself, you don't know what things are wherever. Telecommunication, waves going here and there. You can't see the waves, but it's happening. Do you think iPhone is obsessive?
Yes.
Do you think your phone is obsessive?
Of course.
Rahu, technology. He rules over poison, drugs. I would say pharmaceutical industry too. In a way it's poison, they might help, harm. I mean, we can debate about it, but you brings that energy with it. You know? Questions?
So what you're saying is it's I wouldn't say it's a dark, but it's a latent energy which you can't see, which basically influences your mind enough.
Exactly. And that's why I say now comes, he says, smoky in nature. I think Abhita, you said smoky in nature. Smoke you can't see, it just clouds your judgment. Rahu is what causes confusion in our mind sometimes. Okay? Or a lot of times, confusion. But out of confusion arises clarity. Sometimes you have to question the status quo. If you are in this place, okay, I'm 22 years old, 25 years old, I have to get married, I have to have kids, I have to do this, I have to get a job, and from a job I have to get a promotion, buy a home, blah, blah, blah. That's the set way. If you question, why? Do I really need to get married? Is marriage the right way to go? Can't I have a live-in relationship? Can't I just not get married? That's questioning the status quo. That is Rahu. You see what I'm saying? The saying, so the Navagraha mantra here for Rahu is Ardhakayam Mahaviryam Chandraditya Vimardhanam Simhika Garbha Sambhutam Tam Rahum Pranamamyaham. Ardhakayam Mahaviryam. Ardhakayam, Kaya is body, Ardhakayam, half. Mahaviryam, the great warrior, or somebody who's got a lot of strength, valor, to leave. Firstly, he was, so you know, Simhika Garbha. So he was born, he was from the Garbha of Simhika. Now Simhika, you know Simhika, do you know that? So she was the sister of Prahalada. So Prahalada was Rahu's or Swarbhanu's mama. See, he comes from an illustrious family. You know. So if you say this is this person's son, that means they, so if the shloka says Simhika Garbha Sambhutam, Chandra Aditya Vimardhanam. So Chandra Aditya Vimardhanam. So he gives problem to sun and moon. Moon represents the mind, clouds the mind, all the subconscious, the neuroticism, the obsessiveness, gives problem to the mind. Sun represents the status quo, the rules, the government. If you are a revolutionary, all the revolutions come out of Rahu. You are an anarchist. You are a thief, you are whatever, you are creating problems to, a thief is creating problems to the society, an illusionist is creating problems to the society. Depends on how the energy, that's Rahu. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing is how to channel that. Okay? I'll tell you, smoke, right? So one thing in physics, if you know, in solid, the molecules are less chaotic. You heat it, they become more chaotic.
More entropy.
More entropic, exactly. That's the right term, more entropic. And then you heat it more, smoke. Vapor is the highest entropy, highest chaos. To change state, you have to introduce chaos. That's the basic law of physics. You cannot change your state without introducing chaos. Transformation happens with chaos. That chaos, that transformation is Rahu. You see what I'm saying? He will introduce, he's the joker, he's the anarchist, he's the one who will make you change status quo to get you to a different level. For him to leave his clan and come to the Devas and become immortal, that's change of state. He introduced chaos there. He introduced chaos maybe where he was. So to achieve transformation in life, whether it is material or spiritual, you have to get out of your zone of comfort and move to a different place, leave behind that security, and that energy of changing state transformation is Rahu.
And you're saying that that change is driven by desire. It could be a
Change is
positive or
driven by
negative.
obsession and desire.
It could be a positive or a negative desire.
Exactly. Every planet, graha, vibrates at a positive or different planes. Exactly. That's one that is. Now I can tell you from my own experience, I have completed my 18 years of Rahu. Rahu the Mahadasha is 18 years. It's pretty long, you know. So having gone through it, I can give you some personal experience. So Rahu Dasha, my Rahu Mahadasha coincided with pretty much within few months of me taking the Art of Living course. Okay. When I took the course, I was obsessed with organizing. I don't know how many advanced courses I did, how many courses I could not. I drank, ate, breathed, Art of Living. It was obsession. And I became a totally different person. Before what you knew me and now, it was a totally different. Now, I'm not here to judge good, bad, different, indifferent, but it caused a huge shift. And it put obsession in my mind. Right? So what I'm saying is, whatever Rahu is, it will create a change, it will create transformation, it will create. I know I've been speaking a lot. Any questions?
So how can we use this energy for our advantage?
How can
we at least recognize that now?
Firstly, you have to just take a step back with anything you are doing. Sometimes our mind goes in such an obsessive, because Rahu is so, it's like smoke, you would not even know. You have to firstly, anything that you're obsessed by, sometimes it will be about buying, I have to buy this, I have to buy this, I have to buy a home, I have to buy this. It can be, I have to buy a car, I have to buy a Lexus, I have to buy this home. You have to realize firstly, why do you have to buy? Just step back, you know. Is it that important me to have to buy, I have to do this? Why? Now when you question that, that helps you to develop an awareness. But firstly, you have to be willing to embrace change. The more you resist change and the more you get aware, or sometimes you have to just go through the desire to come out of it. Sometimes it is that, let me not resist, let me just go through it with awareness. Okay, I am indulging, but just I don't want to be carried away. You see what I'm saying?
Is it an 18-year cycle for everybody?
Everyone. A lot of times you would not even go through it, depending on, because totally it's a 120-year cycle. So you don't live 120 years. So it's possible that Rahu Dasha started when you were 1 year old, or you might not ever hit it. But bottom line, it's not all bad, you know. We just have to understand the energy and then play with it and realize, finally all the grahas, the thing is for us to, driving us towards enlightenment. Right? All of that. Rahu is material phase. You go through matter, go through your desires, and then come out of it on the other side shining. So the name of Rahu was Swarbhanu, the resplendent one. Become whole again, maybe, I think. Become resplendent again.
You talked about relationship with Sun and Moon.
Yes.
How about with Jupiter?
He has nothing. So he was, when Jupiter is conjoined with Rahu, that's called Guru Chandal Yoga, because he totally, they say, so Guru is there to give a blessing and to give. He totally, what they say, contaminates the Guru, because he totally sort of takes away, because he just He's smoky, he can take over any dimension, any shape, any size, any. So he sort of colors Guru's energy totally. So that way you don't get a objective perspective to look at things. But either way, that's finally it's not him doing, it's our karma doing. I want to end with one thing that, so every graha has an overlord or a deity. Do you know what's the deity associated with Durga? If you want to get away or sort of... Huh? Durga. Why do you think it's Durga? That's not the most intuitive thing that comes, right? Why Durga?
She's fierce, she can kill the demons.
Yeah, that's good. Fierce, okay. Fierce is one thing.
Shakti is energy.
Energy, okay. So, some people have commented on it. You can think about it. So, when Durga took birth to Mahishasura Mardini, when it took to kill Mahishasura, all the devas gave her their energy and weapons. Okay? So, think about it. She was proxying for all the devas. Do you see what I'm saying? So, it's the energy of proxying that she brings for the devas. And Rahu is all about proxying. That's one explanation, right? So that's why if you're running the Rahu Mahadasha or whatever it is they say, chant Durga Shtotram, Durga Chalisa or some pray to Goddess Durga.
So what is the best house for Rahu to be in?
Best house? There is no such thing. Every house has its own challenges, There are some rashis that work better with that energy. Some do not, but so best house, let's say if it is, I say the 5th house or 3rd house and you have it in the 4th, you're like, oh, I wish I had Rahu in the 3rd house. Nothing like best. Every house doesn't matter. Regardless of which Rashi is better or worse, we have to all deal with our own obsessions. And we have to deal with our own mind. Any question I answer?
So, because Rahu cannot be by itself then in any house, because he has to kind of bring out that planet.
No, Rahu can be by itself in a home. It will always be opposed Ketu. There are 180 degree difference. So it's possible that he is with a home, it's possible that he is on his own. That doesn't really matter. If he is with other planets, he will get colored and he will color other planets. And because he acts in a very unpredictable way, if a water flows, it can only flow like this. But smoke can go everywhere, So it's very difficult to predict Rahu. That's why if there are any diseases, so there's something called medical astrology. So Rahu Ketu both, if during that particular dasha or the gochara or the transit, if you see the disease is because of Rahu or Ketu, you have to be very careful that it might mask itself as some other disease. So then you need to make sure you get at least 2 or 3 other independent consultations. Like if you get one consultation and go for surgery or this medication, that's the general guidance. Go for multiple opinions before you go for a treatment, because they will mask as some other thing and that's not the... So that way you can...
A different question.
Sure.
So when Rahu basically takes you to a different level, either way, right?
Either way, exactly.
So makes you step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So what happens when Rahu's influence fades? Do you go back to your old?
You can, but you will always... So you have to realize the way the dashas flow, you are already colored by that dasha. So you have carried that 18 years of experience with it, so that will color your future experience. Do you see what I'm saying?
So it's not
that, we all carry our experiences. It's not like now I'm past my Rahu and Mahadasha. It's not like my experiences have disappeared, right? I bring those experiences in my present day life. Yeah?
So if it's conjunct with the moon, it will color the judgment and
Absolutely, color the judgment, absolutely. And especially if it's conjunct the moon and the sun or Rahu and then the eclipse, so that's even more prominent. You know? And for some, so if you look at some professions, Rahu is very essential. Okay, actors, you have to proxy as other people. You know, right? I mean, you have to play other politicians. Rahu is the single most important graha. Now, politicians have to be always wearing a garb of somebody else. Right? I mean, they are always on the stage, pretending to be somebody else. So, normally they say politicians are not honest in any country. I mean, that's the general impression, right? Because guess what? They bring, Rahu had to proxy as someone, there was some deceit involved, so that energy of Rahu flows through politicians. So don't blame. Politicians are what like that. That perspective is the same. And guess what? Sometimes, so as you said, his opposite, he creates problems to the sun. Now let's say if you're on the opposing party, okay? So sun represents the government. Okay? So politicians, Rahu is problems to the sun. So if you're opposite party and you have to bring down, so basically in a way you are causing problem to the sun, right? Which is the opposing party. Right? So there are a lot of meanings like this, but again, I think I've already spoken a lot. Last question, if you have any.
Did anyone record it? I think so. Yes.
It's been
Yes.
recorded now.
Yeah.
Twice over.
The inner meaning of surname.
We will discuss that at a later time. Already probably you are going.
Guruji says that Kim Kurvanti Navgre Tat Kendra Brahaspati. So Rahu does not affect Brahaspati?
Rahu definitely affects Brahaspati.
He does?
Yes, Rahu definitely affects Brahaspati. Okay, and Brahaspati affects Rahu. Okay. Jai Gurudev.